Books are great. I love reading. I love novels and other types of different books, but I also have some video game books, and today I want to talk about them. Not necessarily novels. I have some video game novels, but today we are going to be talking about some of my just random books I have. Later, I want to do some on my Zelda books because I have the Goddess collection, but today we are going to be talking about a bit more normal, a bit more something that it is about video games. And today we are going to start with the Nostalgia Nerds Retro Tech Computers, Consoles, Games. Yeah, I really like this book. Nostalgia Nerd is a YouTuber. I highly recommend him if you are into old consoles and all the video game systems, microcomputers and whatnot. This book, I think it's a bit of a hit and miss for me. I liked it, but in a lot of ways, it's a bit weird book, I think. It's very well formatted, it's really nice and shiny and really colorful. And it basically goes through the entire history of video games up until like I think the original Xbox. So it's like 30 years of video game consoles with some really great pictures as well. It's a bit weirdly formatted in my opinion, but it's really strict in its formatting. So first you get a blurb about the console itself, some of the details, and you see like detailed pictures of it, like how an Atari 5200 looks like. And then you have like a bit more. It's more like every single console, how they what they did. And then next is the different categories. So you can see like there is a must see, so games with exceptional graphics quality, that is must play. So the games that are probably the best, so the game that is probably the best, and there is like one bad one usually, which I'm not really a fan of. I'm not really a fan of negativity, and a lot of these consoles, if you want to play some of these games, they are worth it, not necessarily the avoid category, but you can see it's like on the Xbox. Half-Life 2 is really good looking game on the console. Must play is a Halo Combat Evolved, and yeah, you know, it's just a random bad game. Something that I found interesting is that it has not just the console stuff, so you know, like the PS2, your CDX, so it goes into like the Sega CD, goes into detail on those, and usually it's like 4 pages for each console, but it goes into the microcomputer stuff, which is really interesting to me because I'm not really an expert on them. So as you can see, this is like a VIC-20 or like Commodore VIC-20. There are some Commodore 64. It's about the BBC Micro. Yeah, this is the Commodore 64. And it goes into detail in that, which was huge in the UK. Not really really that popular. You know, it's people usually talk about consoles, but the real enthusiasts, a lot of the times, they are the ones who talk about, like, you know, the Tandy TRS-80. I like to get educated on this stuff, so this is the part that I found interesting, because I already know a lot about, you know, the video game console stuff. So I know about maybe the TurboGrafx or PlayStation 2. You know, it's like, yeah, obviously the PS2 is great, and we know a lot about it. There aren't that many new things we can learn about it, but microcomputers are a kind of a deal where it's pretty hard to find a lot of information about the more obscure PC computers like this, like some of those smaller ones, and they were really popular in the UK. So I think if you want to pick this book up, I think it's still available to buy online on like Amazon and stuff. I would recommend this. If you are into console gaming, you can learn a lot about PC gaming and interesting games if you want to try those out. So next up is actually not one, but 3 books from the same writer, Jason Schreier, who is a journalist he used to be at Kotaku, now he's at Bloomberg. He is writing about video game industry. He is a great guy, and you should follow him because he makes great books also. This is Blood, Sweat and Pixels. And this is basically about what goes into creating video games. There is a lot of stories. It's actually about certain games. So there is like Pillars of Eternity. There is stuff about Uncharted 4, Shovel Knight, Stardew Valley, a bunch of really famous games. Even talk about how some studio closures happened, what is happening, and how certain games are created from like the really small like one man gaming creations like Stardew Valley, which was actually originally made by one person, and then it goes into the mid-size, like smaller, couple of people working on indie games, up until like the huge blockbuster games like Uncharted 4. And you can, well, since the title is Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, so it's like the struggle, how they are fighting with like studio closures. There is a really, really good stuff about. I think it's in this one, maybe not, maybe this in the second one, but there is a lot of hard work that goes into that. And then a bunch of times you can see it in the news actually that they are closing down studios, and it's actually pretty horrible. But there are some good and heartwarming stories in these ones as well. Press Reset is also an exciting one. I think this one has Kingdoms of Amalur, which has like a really crazy story, how the game was created. It started as an online MMO RPG, and they formed it, and they had these huge budgets, and then they spent the money, and they wanted to do like action figures with McFarlane, so they designed the figure studio designed a bunch of their characters. So it's really good. This is about how they retooled and restarted a bunch of projects. There are some like Epic Mickey, Bioshock Infinite, Dead Space, even World of Warcraft. There are some really crazy stories in there. And then the third one, I just got it yesterday, I think. This is Play Nice, The Rise and Fall and Future of Blizzard Entertainment. I'm really excited to read about it, because although I'm not a Blizzard fan, I haven't even played any Blizzard games. I think this one is worth reading, because I heard it goes into really deep details into what is happening behind the scenes at Blizzard. So yeah, I think I will make a video about it later when I have read the book, because I'm really excited to read it. This is a book that I got a pretty long time ago. I got it when the NES Classic Edition came out. It's the small plug-and-play TV console with 30 games. And I was excited to see that it got a companion book, Playing with Power. And if you see this, so this is basically looks like a big NES cartridge. And inside there is a book. I can put this here. You can see that this is the NES controller on this side and on the other side. And this is, I thought it was gonna be a bit better, to be honest. It's a bit of a letdown, this book. So that's why I haven't gotten the Super Nintendo one. So this one is about a little bit about the NES and a little bit about the history of the consoles. There are some interesting facts and tidbits about the NES in there, but usually it's just the strategy guide or playthrough guide to the games that are licensed by Nintendo and they are on the NES Classic. So as you can see, like Super Mario Bros., you can see all the levels here. There is a map for a bunch of these levels. Not every level, but it goes into pretty much high details. You can see these are like more simple games, like Donkey Kong is also in there. Donkey Kong Jr. as well. And some of them are good, some of them has like longer ones. So this is like Super Mario Brothers 2. So these have like nice artworks, and it goes into detail, but not really something that I was looking for, like the behind the scenes stuff, because nowadays you can just Google everything in there and check the stuff about the games out anywhere on the internet. So there is a lot of guides and playthroughs and walkthroughs and whatnot. So a lot of this stuff is really useless now. I was actually thinking about more like development stuff, but there are some really nice artworks in there, although the paper quality isn't the greatest. And it's like, well, yeah, it's Dr. Mario, but do you really need a guide for Dr. Mario? Kirby's Adventure. So yeah, it goes into detail, and then at the end it's more neat, I think, because if you check this out, yeah, you can see 3DS commercial, but there are words about the peripherals, and then that's it. So yeah, it's a bit of a letdown, but I would still recommend it if you want strategy guides for all those old games, but it doesn't really go into that much detail about the creation of those games, so I wasn't really happy about that. And last but not least, this is my favorite one. It's a huge book, if you can check it out. It is like crazy big. It's a guide to Japanese role-playing games. I saw this online. I was like, oh yeah, I need to get this one. This is a giant encyclopedia. Up until like 2021, it has every single Japanese RPG ever released, I think, with a lot of details about it, with a lot of written stuff about it. Like you can see, it's like Final Fantasy 3, it's 12. So the book starts with pretty normal stuff, like, you know, what is a JRPG and the history of RPGs in Japan. And it goes into a lot of details in there, how localization works, how it has a connection with anime, certain remakes, how they are. And then it goes into different parts. First part is about the Japanese PC RPGs, which I know nothing about, and it's really interesting to see, like, you know, where it all started. It's not just the Western games. There is a bunch of like Japan only or other parts of the world only releases. They are usually you can see like little details about them, some, and then it goes into more details about the most famous game series. So the big five, the Falcom games, there is the Shin Megami Tensei / Persona games, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and then the Tales of games. And then, you know, you can read about those. So this part is about Final Fantasy, and it goes into all of the different Final Fantasy game. And then this is the next part. So after Final Fantasy, it's Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. And then, you know, it goes on for a long time because there is a lot of games in there. This is the original Shin Megami Tensei logo, which is not really used anymore, but I think it's amazing. And then there is the Tales of series, and then it changes into a lot of the handheld games and spin-off titles, and it talks about like action RPGs near the end, other game series. It is just like hundreds and hundreds. Oh, there is 3D Dot Game Heroes, one of my favorites. It even goes into like Okami, which is an action RPG, tactics RPGs also. And near the end, it goes into some of the roguelikes, like there is the Monster Rancher, and then also talks about some of the Western-made JRPGs, which, you know, it doesn't make any sense if you think about it, like Western JRPGs, but it means that they are games that were created by Western studios, like turn-based combat, and even talks about Undertale in there. There is this huge stuff near the end. So yeah, this is Undertale, which is one of my favorites of all time, and it goes into a lot of details. I highly recommend this book. It's a bit expensive. I think I got it at a good deal, but it's usually around like 60 euros. So it's not a cheap book, but it's nice, colorful. There is a lot of details. It's really high quality book about video games. Just every single JRPG ever. And I hope that they make a sequel to it, maybe in like 10 years. And then we can see like a second volume where it talks about the, you know, games until after this book was finished. So yeah, these are all my video game books. I like these very much. There are some good ones that you can pick up. There are some encyclopedias and other really great books on video games, but, you know, these are just a couple of them that I would recommend, and these are in my collection. And next time I want to talk about the Zelda Goddess collection. So if you want to watch that also, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you next time.